What if I told you that some of the things sitting in your driveway, hanging in your closet, and listed on your personal balance sheet right now are not assets at all? What if the things you've been told represent financial progress, the things you point to when you want to feel like you're getting ahead, are actually doing the opposite? What if the very items most people spend their entire working lives accumulating are quietly, systematically, and permanently destroying the wealth they could have built? Here's the question that nobody asks out loud, but almost everyone secretly wonders. How is it possible that someone can earn a good income for 20 or 30 years, live in a nice house, drive a good car, own all the right things, and still arrive at retirement with almost nothing? How does that happen? How does a person spend 3 decades earning money and end up with so little to show for it? The answer is fake assets. And once you understand what they are and how they work, you will never look at your finances the same way again. My name is Ken, and on this channel we talk about the financial truths that most people spend their entire lives missing. Today I want to walk you through the most common fake assets that are draining your wealth right now. Things that feel like financial progress, but are actually moving you backward every single month. And I want to show you the exact numbers behind each one. Because when you see what these things are actually costing you in real wealth, the math is genuinely shocking. Stick with me, because around the halfway point of this video, I'm going to show you a comparison that will completely reframe how you think about everything you own. If this is the kind of content that makes you think differently about money, subscribe and hit that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more people who need to hear this. Before we get into the list, I want to make sure we're clear on something fundamental. What is an asset? A real asset is something that puts money into your pocket over time. It grows in value, generates income, or both. A real asset works for you while you sleep. It compounds. It builds. It creates more of itself over time without requiring you to keep feeding it money to survive. A fake asset is the opposite. It looks like wealth from the outside. It feels like an achievement. It might even impress the people around you. But underneath the surface, it is consuming your money, losing value, and costing you more every single year you own it. The gap between these two things, real assets and fake assets, is the gap between the people who retire wealthy and the people who retire wondering where all the money went. Let's go through them one by one. Fake asset number 1, your brand new car. We covered this in depth in our last video, but it belongs on this list because it is the single most universally owned fake asset in America. Most people think of their car as part of their net worth. They list it as an asset. They feel better about their financial position because of it. But here is what a car actually does to your money. The moment you drive a new $35,000 car off the lot, it loses approximately 20% of its value. By the time you get home, you are sitting in a $28,000 car. By the end of year 5, that same car is worth roughly $14,600. You have lost over $20,000 in value, and that is before a single dollar of interest, insurance, or maintenance is counted. A car doesn't generate income. It doesn't compound. It doesn't build anything. It depreciates every single day you own it, while simultaneously demanding money from you in payments, insurance, fuel, and repairs. The person who buys a reliable used car for cash and invests the $500 a month they would have spent on payments, over 30 years at 8% average annual return, builds over $745,000. The person who cycles through car payments their entire adult life builds nothing from that money. Same income, completely different outcome. The car felt like an asset. The investment account actually was one. Fake asset number 2, your primary home. This one is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people because homeownership is possibly the most deeply held financial belief in American culture. You've been told your entire life that buying a home is the best investment you can make. It builds equity. It appreciates over time. It's the foundation of the American dream. And on the surface, the numbers seem to support it. Home values do go up over time. But here is the part of the story that almost nobody tells you. Your primary home, the one you live in, is not a pure asset. It is a hybrid that contains both an asset component and a massive expense component. And most people dramatically overestimate the first part while completely ignoring the second. Let me show you the real math. The average American home is worth around $350,000. Over 20 years, at a 3% average annual appreciation rate, which is roughly the historical average for residential real estate, that home grows to about $632,000. That looks like a gain of $282,000 on paper. But now let's account for what you actually paid over those 20 years. Mortgage interest on a 30-year loan at 7% runs into hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. Property taxes at roughly 1.2% annually on a $350,000 home run about $84,000 over 20 years. Maintenance, roof, HVAC, plumbing, appliances, averages around 1% of home value per year, which is another $70,000 over 20 years. Insurance, HOA fees, and other carrying costs add more on top of that. When you add up the true cost of owning that home over 20 years, the numbers tell a very different story than the simple appreciation figure suggests. This doesn't mean you should never buy a home. Home ownership has real benefits: stability, community, protection against rent increases, the ability to customize your space. But it does mean you should stop counting your primary residence as your primary wealth-building strategy. The home you live in is a place to live first, and a financial instrument second. The people who treat it as their main investment vehicle often discover too late that the math didn't work the way they thought it would. Fake asset number 3, expensive gadgets and technology. This one is quieter than the others because each individual purchase feels small. A new phone, a new laptop, a new television, a gaming setup, a smart home system. None of these feel like major financial decisions in the moment because each one seems reasonable in isolation. But add them up across a year, across a decade, and the number becomes significant. The average American household spends over $1,000 a year on consumer electronics and technology. That $1,000 a year invested instead at 8% average annual returns over 20 years grows to over $45,000. Over 30 years, it grows to over $113,000. The phone you upgraded when your current one worked perfectly, the television you replaced because a slightly better model came out, the laptop you bought because it was on sale. Each of those decisions converted real wealth-building potential into a depreciating object that will be worth a fraction of its purchase price within 2 or 3 years. The gadget isn't an asset. It doesn't generate income. It doesn't compound. It loses value from the moment you open the box. And the financial system built around it is specifically designed to make you feel like you're missing out if you don't keep upgrading. The upgrade cycle is a wealth extraction machine disguised as progress. Fake asset number 4, designer clothes and luxury items. Clothing is the most perishable fake asset of all because it loses essentially all of its financial value the moment you wear it. A $500 outfit is worth almost nothing the day after you buy it. A designer handbag worth $1,500 might retain some resale value, but will never return what you paid for it. Yet most people significantly overestimate how much of their spending goes into this category because it happens in small increments. A shirt here, a pair of shoes there, a jacket that was technically on sale. The average person who consciously redirects just $300 a month from clothing and appearance-related spending into a basic index fund investment builds over $176,000 in 20 years at 8% average annual returns. The clothes they would have bought are gone, donated, worn out of style, forgotten. The investment account remains and keeps growing. This isn't about looking bad or refusing to dress well. It's about the difference between buying clothes that serve a genuine purpose and buying clothes, or accessories, or luxury items, primarily to signal status or manage how other people perceive you. That second category of spending is almost entirely a wealth destruction activity with a social performance function wrapped around it. Fake asset number 5, timeshares. Timeshares deserve their own category because they are one of the most aggressively marketed fake assets in existence, and they come wrapped in the language of real estate, which makes them feel legitimate to most people. The average timeshare purchase price is around $24,000. The average annual maintenance fee is around $1,200, and it increases every year. You own the right to use a specific property for a specific week or weeks annually, and you will pay for that right for the rest of your life whether you use it or not. Timeshares are notoriously difficult to sell. The resale market for them is almost non-existent. There are companies that exist specifically to help people escape timeshare contracts, which tells you everything you need to know about their value as assets. The $24,000 purchase price, plus $1,200 annually in maintenance fees over 20 years, represents $48,000 spent on a depreciating obligation. That same money, the $24,000 up front, plus $1,200 annually, invested at 8% over 20 years, would grow to over $166,000. The timeshare produced memories and annual fees. The investment account would have produced wealth. Now I want to show you the comparison I promised at the beginning of this video. Because everything I've described so far becomes most powerful when you see it in the context of two real people making real decisions over time. Meet Brian and Sarah. Same age, both 35. Same income, $72,000 a year. Same starting point, neither of them has significant savings yet. This is the moment when the financial decisions they make start to permanently define what their lives look like at 60. Brian does what most people do. He buys a new car every 5 years because he deserves something reliable and nice. He counts his house as his primary investment and puts every extra dollar toward paying it down faster. He upgrades his phone every 2 years, buys the latest tech when he wants it, refreshes his wardrobe seasonally, and signed up for a timeshare vacation package 5 years ago that he uses inconsistently but keeps paying for. Brian isn't reckless. He isn't irresponsible. He just never questioned whether the things he was accumulating were actually building his wealth or consuming it. All of his money is going somewhere. He just doesn't realize where. Sarah does something different. She drives a reliable used car she bought for cash. She owns a home, but doesn't count it as her retirement plan. She keeps her phone until it stops working, buys clothes that serve genuine purposes, and has never bought a timeshare. Every month, Sarah takes the money that Brian is sending to car payments, gadget upgrades, and maintenance fees, roughly $800 a month across all of it, and invests it in a simple, broad market index fund. She does this consistently for 25 years. By the time both Brian and Sarah are 60, the difference between them is not subtle. Sarah's investment account has grown to over $760,000 at 8% average annual returns. Brian has a house with some equity, a car in the driveway, a closet full of clothes, and a collection of gadgets, and an investment account with almost nothing in it. Both of them worked for 25 years. Both of them earned similar incomes. The gap between their financial positions at 60 was not created by luck or by income. It was created entirely by what each of them did with the money they had, and whether the things they spent it on were real assets or fake ones. Here is what makes this story so difficult to see clearly when you're living inside it. Brian's life looked better than Sarah's for most of those 25 years. His car was nicer. His house was more updated. His wardrobe was sharper. His vacations were at a resort with his name on the reservation. From the outside, Brian looked like the more successful person. The financial reality underneath that surface was the opposite, and it stayed invisible until both of them were standing at the edge of retirement looking at their numbers. This is the core trap of fake assets. They produce visible, immediate, socially validated signals of success. They feel like achievements. They feel like rewards you've earned. And because everyone around you owns the same things, because fake assets are essentially the default setting of consumer culture, there is almost no social pressure pushing back against them. There is only pressure to accumulate more of them. The psychological pull toward fake assets is not weakness. It's not stupidity. It's the entirely predictable result of living in a culture that has been carefully designed to make you confuse consumption with accumulation. Every advertisement you've ever seen, every social signal you've ever received, every conversation at every gathering you've ever attended has been subtly reinforcing the idea that owning more things means building more wealth. The entire consumer economy depends on you believing this, and for most people, that belief goes completely unexamined for their entire working lives. The reframe that changes everything is simple but genuinely difficult to internalize. Stop asking whether you can afford something. Start asking whether it produces value or consumes it. Does this thing put money into my pocket over time or take it out? Does it grow or does it decay? Does it build something or does it perform something? That single question, applied consistently to every significant financial decision, is the difference between arriving at retirement with genuine wealth and arriving there wondering where it all went. Real assets are boring. They don't impress anyone at dinner parties. A brokerage account doesn't generate compliments the way a new car does. An index fund doesn't turn heads the way a designer wardrobe does. Real wealth is almost entirely invisible from the outside, which is exactly why most people don't realize how much of it they're failing to build until it's too late to change course. The good news is that the math works in your favor the moment you start redirecting money from fake assets toward real ones. You don't need to earn more. You don't need a second job. You don't need to make dramatic sacrifices or live like you're poor. You simply need to stop feeding the fake assets and start feeding the real ones instead. Even $500 a month, redirected from depreciating purchases into a simple index fund, builds over $745,000 over 30 years. That money was always there. It was just going to the wrong place. So the next time you're about to make a purchase, the next time something is sitting in your cart or waiting in a showroom or being pitched to you on a call, ask yourself the honest question. Is this a real asset or a fake one? Is this building my wealth or performing it? Because after everything we've walked through today, you already know the difference. The only question is whether you're willing to let that knowledge change what you do next. If this video changed how you see the things you own, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Ken Invests. We release videos every week covering the financial truths that most people spend their entire lives missing. You being here tells me you're serious about building something real, and what we cover next is going to be just as important as what you heard today. Everything in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. I'm here to help you think. What you do with that thinking is always up to you.